I have had experiences with both types of phones. I originally had Androids for a few years before I ever got an iPhone. I got my first iPhone actually only a little more than a year ago, but now I feel like I'm part of an exclusive club. I will say that Androids have some advantages. They have bigger screens. Sometimes they're more functional, but I like iPhones because they're much more simple. They come in like this pretty little package, and the operating system, I think, is much more simple to use. There's not as much distraction on the screen. When I had an Android, it had a little light that flashed all the time, which really bothered me, and all of my notifications were there on my screen, whereas with the iPhone, you can drag down and see all of your notifications, but you don't have to look at them if you don't want to, which I really like. Did you know that we live in the most peaceful period of time in history? Why is that? According to Steven Pinker, it's because each generation is more educated than the last. This indicates that education is conducive to peace. So if we want to promote peace, we need to promote education. Education is recognized as a universal human right, but does that mean that every young person is getting the education that they should be? In developing countries...
Start from in developing countries again.
In developing countries, a huge problem is transportation. Some children are unable to get to school even if there is a school available because of transport problems. In Chile, university students took to the streets in 2011 to protest the high, exorbitant costs of education, and their government responded by tear gassing them and shooting them with water cannons. This is an extremely inappropriate government response to students demanding the rights that they deserve. In June, I published an article cataloging the Chilean student movement and the progress that they have made so far. And this year, I'll be working with Amnesty International to promote education as a human right.
So Cassandra S, I've read your article on Chilean student movement, and I found it very passionate. Could you tell me a little bit about how your writing career developed?
Well, my writing has actually come a really long way since childhood. I started writing when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I originally started writing creative short stories, and through my adolescence, I also wrote a lot of poetry, and I got a lot of encouragement from my teachers and my family. Everybody really encouraged me to keep writing, and they hope to see me published someday. I have been published, but I plan to publish a book someday. So. And then when I started going to college, and now in my time at Miss, I'm using my writing skills, in the academic world, and being able to put out a really good research paper, and now I'm actually also a freelance journalist, making a little bit of money off of my writing, and will hopefully continue to do that, and hope to be published someday in publications such as Time Magazine or Mother Jones.
How did your experience writing translate into your desire to do graduate work?
Well, I don't know if it translated directly into that, but I've always known that whatever I end up doing as a career, I want to be able to write and I want to be able to travel. And those are two things that I really wouldn't give up. But I found myself in a situation after I graduated from University of Washington with a bachelor's degree in English language and literature, where I was working in a job that wasn't really relevant to my degree, and I really just didn't feel fulfilled. And I kind of looked at everyone around me, and it seemed like people were just doing the day-to-day motions, and I realized that I really wasn't happy with that, and that I needed to put that behind and move on and go out and not only advance myself, but try to move the world forward a little bit. And I started researching programs, international relations programs. I applied to 2 schools and decided to come to Miss, and I just think that coming here has been a really good decision in bettering myself and trying to better the world also, and continue with my writing.
I've heard of the Monterey Institute of International Studies. Tell me a little bit about what your experience has been here at Miss.
Something that I really like about the programs here is that you might go into a course not necessarily knowing very much about the subject or really having a specific interest in that, But I feel like I'm constantly presented with new ideas, and I can run with those ideas to whatever extent I'd like to. And that has really developed for me a lot in the past year. For example, I went to Chile in January of 2013, and the program is so flexible that you can kind of decide what your own interest is within that sphere and run with it after the program is over. And I did just that. I've become very, very interested in the Chilean student movement and their history of political repression, and have actually published an article this year about that. So I really, really like the flexibility and all of the resources that I'm given by my professors. I love that the professors seem so dedicated to making sure that we succeed.
How do you plan to use the expertise that you gain at Miss in your professional career in the future?
Well, I think that I have a really, really good skill set, given that every organization needs somebody to make sure that everything that they are producing, sending out, is really polished and professional. I think that writing and editing skills are very important, and that I could be a really, really good asset to a team that needs somebody like that. And I also plan to continue writing journalistic articles and raising awareness about the subjects that I'm interested in, and just contributing however I can.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.